everybody. You are watching the Monica Makes Money Happen podcast. It's number 2, and I am so excited to have Dr. Martin here, and I call him the Doctor of Money because he is, well, the co-founder of FUBU. It's a fashion brand, $1 billion fashion brand that we all know and love. And, well, I've always wanted to have you on the show. I read your first book, and now you have your second book. But what I love about you is the story. And what we'll always do on these podcasts is we tell the story, we go in depth. The second part, after the first commercial break, is going to be about how we did it, the practical information on how you did it. And then after the second commercial break, we're going to have what you're doing now for the community and the future of FUBU. So just in case investors are watching, it's growing big time. But the first part I really want to bring home, and I want this to be just a conversation because you told me so much good stuff. And that's the thing, off camera, we get so much good stuff. And so now in this podcast, we can say everything we wanted to say because time is unlimited, kind of. Time is money still, right? Tell me, Dr. Martin, with you, your story is what fueled you and that mission that you were driven. And it's, for us, by us. FUBU is for us, by us. And I feel the same way. I'm mission driven too. Is that the secret to your success, or what would you say is the secret to your success?
Yes, definitely. That's definitely the secret to our success. The strength of the word, or the strength of for us, by us, actually turned into a book as well. Just fuels us. Why people buy? Why do people purchase your item? How do you find what is missing in the world? How do you find what's missing in commerce? All that encompasses what drives you or drives an answer. What's the answer? Could be an answer to this microphone.
I bought these mics. Right? These are my mics.
It could be an answer to.
Sometimes you just do it. You just got to do it.
A tie clip, like anything that you can imagine that's not there. So again, you have to find your demographic, psychographics, and once you put those two together, you'll find, what your driven goal is or what you want to sell. My
mission here is financial literacy, but understandable. And I'm so grateful that we're doing this because I'm learning right along with the audience. And, sometimes there's a generational curse of not having money, right? But we want to break that generational curse, right? And with you had that story. You're from Hollis, Queens. Yeah. You're a veteran to our country. You're a hero. You served our country. Can you tell me a little bit about how that military experience plays into business, how it helped you?
Well, I said it early in the show that, if you make a mistake, people die. It sounds eerie, but it's the truth. You stand on watch and you go to something called general quarters. I was in the U.S. Navy.
Thank you for serving our country.
Got out on a medical discharge. I'm actually 50% disabled.
Wow.
And functioning as well. And, it drives you to be perfect because, again, there is no tomorrow. You stand on watch and you miss a call, or I was a radioman, or I misunderstood or misinterpreted what someone said, and I'm relaying messages, and I say the wrong thing, I could wipe out countless of people. So you never know. So you have to be perfect, and you have to pay attention to detail, everything you do.
I love that, the detail, right? It's in the details, and the humility that you have. You're so of service. I feel like that's a common thread among a lot of the billionaires I've been meeting, is being of service, actually doing something.
The give back.
The giving back.
You can't move forward unless you give back. You can't. It's inevitable. And again, your mind is consuming so much. You have to let it go, because for it to allow yourself to learn more.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I love about you too is that you served our country, then you came and you invested, what was it, $5,000?
So let me tell you the story behind it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
I come home from Judges of the Storm. Damon John sitting in his
Shark Tank fame. We love him. JP Morgan Chase.
Shout out to him. And he's has a hat on. Oh my God! I tell him stories about what I've done and who I've met, and playing music that he probably never heard of before. Because again, when you're in the military, you meet so many different groups of people, so many different types of people.
That's great.
And you're amongst each other, and you have to get along, or else, because again, you're in a ship. in the ocean. And I saw the hat. He had a hat, and it was like a tie top hat. Back in the days, it's like a tube, almost looks like a hat you wear to bed, and tied at the top. And he had a label that said FUBU, and I said, well, "What's that?" And he said, "FUBU meant forest bias." And I said, "Well, I want to turn that into a clothing line." And he looked at me like I had 4 heads and 6 arms, and I was like, "Well, I can do it. I'm going to FIT." And he's like, "Well, we don't have any money." I'm like, "Well, I have $6,000, and I gave him 5,000. I took 1,000. I bought clothes. So obviously, I was into fashion way back then.
Yeah, you look great
I
too.
probably only bought 2 things, knowing me. I can't remember what I bought, but I know it was definitely some slacks.
And then he tells a story about his mom giving him money, and that's how he started.
Right.
And then here's the brand. But it started just from you. Like you said, what I like about you and what I got from you behind the scenes a little bit already is that we're all goal driven. I want this. But you were saying you had goals, but you always thought bigger than goals.
Right. So, my thing more so is vision. I think you can see a larger landscape in life, in business, and everything you do versus goal orientated. Because goal orientated to me, and again, this is not for everybody. Take what I say with a grain of salt.
Yeah, no, I love that. Always take what you want and then leave the rest if it doesn't work for you. Yeah, totally.
But because some people need goals, trust me. So for me, my thing is, a goal limits you, because once you get to that goal, now you have to start another goal. For me, I never stop. It just keeps going and going and going, and that turns into drive. Because I don't know if you can teach drive. I'm trying to put it in the book. But if I could teach drive, I'd make even more billions.
And you know what? That's huge, what he just said, because it's an abundant universe. And I think as I get older, because I'm getting older, I think about that. I think that we're all going to win. We all can win. And that's why we developed this podcast. And I want to have conversations like with yourself, because I watch business shows and I always see a certain type of person and I know most of the money makers I know are women, Black and brown CEOs, making a lot of money and doing it from the best of circumstances. Sometimes you had a great family, but sometimes not so good. Like my story is I have a little bit of conflict and alcoholism, all that stuff that comes from my family. So, but it makes you better, doesn't it? All these obstacles make you better. So teasing,
I might add this. Yeah. I always say, old adage of mine is, life and business is like a slingshot. So all the things that you're going through, all the problems, all the quote unquote problems that they
pulling you back,
pulling back, and then when you're finally ready, you let the slingshot go and look how far you go.
I love that because it's tension.
Yes.
It doesn't.
But you're learning things. Like for instance, let's say it's alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but now you're learning how to be compassionate to people. You're learning how to read people. You're learning how to help people. And in turn, if you're in a certain type of business, of course you need that. You need that. And again, it's what you've learned and how much you can deal with. Because an entrepreneur, it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
It's probably the hardest job there is.
Right. When you own your own stuff. But you want to own your own stuff. That's a secret, right? And after this commercial break, we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to enter a commercial break. We're going to talk a little bit about how you did it. More of the meat of how you did this, and it's in your new book. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. That's coming up. Okay, so now, what is it? Consult to Conquer. I love the title. I love alliteration, first of all. Fabulous. What's the title mean? What does that mean?
Well, it basically means, so for years I've been consulting and helping people.
Make Money Crazy was your first one.
Yes, Money Makes Me Crazy.
Money Makes Me Crazy. Right. That was the first one.
Building an Empire.
You've had, how many books have you written? 4. Oh, sorry. I only read 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. What's
Building Empire.
Okay.
Second to that, third to that is The Strength of Forest Bias. And then the fourth, which is the latest book.
All on Amazon, right?
Amazon.
We can find it because that's what
Barnes
Google. So tell me about that. I mean, what's the latest? Why are you driven to do this latest one?
Well, the latest book, it was more of a trilogy in the beginning, but then it came to, okay, guys, you consulted people, but people don't know even how to be consulted. And it's really crazy. I came across a couple of people that I actually really knew they paid a lot of money to consult.
Yeah.
To consult them. but
Yeah.
have them to be consulted, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they'd come to me and say, hey, well, I didn't get anything out of it. So I'm like, well, what do you mean you didn't get anything out of it? How much did you pay? Like, oh my God, I paid it. You paid what? How much? And and then two, part of it is you don't even know how to be consulted, so you don't know how to accept the help. So this book is teaching you how to accept the answers, how to be divisive or not be divisive. Because a lot of times people are feeding you stuff that they're just giving you fluff. There's a old
That's good. I needed to hear that one.
There's an old situation where a guy was consulting, and I don't know if this was true or not. And it was about, he was consulting a powder company, baby powder company.
Yeah.
And I really don't know if this is true or not, but it sounds great.
Yeah.
And
I love stories.
the guy says, come in, okay, you got the job. So 6 months, he's playing golf. He's never coming in the office. It's back and forth. And everybody's complaining like, hey, you got paying us money to consult. And he's not doing anything for us.
Yeah.
And so the 8th month comes, the 9th month comes, and it's like, look, the board is like, listen, you got to get rid of this guy. This guy's not giving us anything. So the guy comes into work, and they say, listen, I need to know what's going on now. This is enough. Enough is enough.
Yeah.
So he says, okay, want the answer? Put a piece of took the powder on and put it on the table, and said, how could you? So the question was, how can I make more money?
Yeah.
How can I scale? How can I make more money?
Yeah.
Make the holes bigger.
And that was it. When you take the powder and it's hard to, so it was a simple solution. So that was all he was.
So again, business isn't hard. So you make it hard. Wow.
That, I don't know why that hit me so much. I always say if we help one person, that's enough, but you helped me see something a little differently. And what I love about you is that you also have a network. So it's not just a clothing brand, it's a way of life, right?
Well, initially I started a network because, again, marketing and branding and advertising, it started one way and it kind of dwarfed into another things. I mean, you going from television to podcasting at this point.
Yeah.
And actually,
I have to.
Actually,
it's where I have to go where everyone is. So I didn't have a choice.
In the second couple of years, it made, even out with typical broadcasting.
No, I like that you said that because I relate to you so much, your story, because, when I wanted my own show, I just went they had this social media room, and I just went in there and I started talking. They had a couch, so I started talking. We started having all these big guests, like we get the Attorney General. We get really big guests, and then people started to come in and like, what is she doing in there? And it's kind of happening too. You notice people are stopping at the one, like, what's she doing? So I kind of like starting things and then creating that momentum, because once you have that momentum, let's talk about momentum, because I feel like that's what happened with you was. You had such a string of successes, but then you had this you lost so much money. I mean, this is a public story, so I don't think I'm breaking any of, I think you're okay talking about this. You lost more money than most people would make in their entire life, all their generations. And then you built it back. Can you tell me about, how did you do that? I mean, I'm sure you felt defeated. Was there a moment that you felt defeated, or were you?
Well, what you have to do for me, or my advice was to sit back and say, and be okay with it. Like, you have to be comfortable within and not being comfortable. And I had to teach myself how to do that, because again, with success, you start riding and you're in the clouds and everything is going great and everything is beautiful and you would just feel like you're not going to fall. So sometimes you have to fall to understand what you have, and then automatically you go right back up because you needed that to push you even further. Wow.
So then you're saying, and I hate to say, a lot of billionaires, a lot of money people say the same thing, that right before the biggest loss that you've ever had, that's getting you prepared for the biggest
gain.
Win. Is that the case?
I believe so.
Okay, because I'm waiting. We're waiting.
I believe so.
I'm waiting.
But
let's do it. Let's make it happen.
When it happens. It's not like
you can't make it happen. Even though that's my slogan, and we can make things happen. But I love that it's not really making it happen. But I love people who are doers.
Just be ready for it to happen.
Be ready. I do have a new slogan now. Be ready for it to be. I love that.
Because again, like for now, you're doing the podcast. So
Yeah,
you start
yeah.
from 1
Yeah.
to 2 to 3, and now you're gonna have some guests cancel on you.
Yeah. Oh, that
Have
happens
some
all the
something
time.
happen on
Yeah,
air.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you're gonna have a malfunction.
But not with the people who are in here.
No,
You,
of course not. Not
Natalie,
today.
Ashley, they're always
today.
they're consistent.
But then
They always show
this,
up. Yeah.
This room will turn into triple. It'll be bigger than this and bigger than that. And
I have
then
a feeling,
after
yeah.
a while, because you'll be able to just, take care of any situation, and then people will go, "Wow, that's the best. She started it."
Aw.
It's and everybody's gonna be, look. I went to room. Sorry, this is her own room, and you're gonna have to go down there.
Isn't that funny?
We have a little corridor for you where you can do it. Here's a phone. You should, yeah.
Dr. Martin, you are, something, and it is true. At first, it was like, okay, and then it becomes, because you put all that energy and you create the template for success. If you could tell one thing, like one of your biggest successes and how you were able to accomplish it, what are you most proud of that you want to tell people? I'm most proud of.
It's not traditionally what you would ask. It's more so I'm most proud of that I keep going.
Wow, I needed to pause on that one. That you don't give up, right?
No,
because
don't
we
give
know
up.
Churchill, and I have this frame somewhere. Never, ever, ever give up, right? But that is so true. It's never, ever, ever give up, right? And maybe someone watching needs to hear that. Then biggest, I said biggest success is that you kept going. Biggest failure that you would regret. Do you have any regrets?
Another one.
You have any regrets?
I can never answer this question properly because I never look at a regret. I never regret anything, and I never think of it as a failure. Because again, back to my situation with the
where it
slingshot,
pushed you back,
all of those
but then
things I was learning.
Wow.
Because right
you
now,
are so
if you
healthy.
ask me about
you
stem
are so
cell,
good.
if you ask me about
I have a few regrets.
Podcast, if you ask me about clothing, you ask me about aerodynamics, I know a little bit about everything because I either got into it through business or someone failed on money, or I invested and that didn't work. So I try to learn a little bit about everything. Now, I won't be a master, but I'll know a little bit of everything.
Wow.
So
okay.
I can go in any room.
Coming out of this next break, we're going to take a little break, and then you're going to talk about the future of FUBU. I want to hear a little bit, especially for the investors watching. But then you want to start your own companies. But also, we want to talk about what you're giving to the community and veterans. You're giving back to veterans. So, and there's an interesting story there. So, stay tuned. All right. So, the future of FUBU. What's the future? What can you tell us anything, or what are you working on? The network, right? The network, the awards ceremony. You have an award ceremony coming up.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Again, FUBU in its entirety is always a work in progress. Again, as I am, I'm always going to keep pushing the needle. So we want to always give back. So we're creating the 4 Aspires Awards. So technically, it's the 4 Aspires Hip Hop Business Awards.
I love it.
And a lot of people made a lot of money through hip hop. A lot of people. So we want to give back to hip hop by showcasing the people that have been influenced economically.
Yeah.
And and it's I want to say it's at least 20 years in the making that we're actually doing this. We're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee.
I love that. I love Memphis. So can I ask you a question though? When we talk about we have a lot of hip hop stars on the show, from old school to now. We had Fabio Foreign on, which I don't know how that happened. I had Fabio on, and even my kids were like, "That's incredible."
Wow.
And wait till you see the next. I have a legend coming on our next show. Should I say it? I'm always superstitious because when it's big, I want it to be like a surprise. But this is a big legend, female legend, hip hop artist. That narrows it down to just a few, right?
No, now today.
Well, no, back then.
Oh, back then. Okay, yes, back
she
then.
was a trailblazer.
Yes,
if you can guess it, and you put it in the comments, I'm gonna have to get you a mug. We have Monica Makes It Happen mugs. Okay, so but back to you. Like, I think that is so brilliant that you're doing that, harnessing that business power. Because I think so many times we've done stories, and money is the undercurrent of the problem, always, almost always, and we don't talk about it. It's almost like it's the hidden secret sometimes. But it's really the essence of, because if you're like, we don't have money, then we don't have the power, we don't have the voice. So
it's a controlling factor in a lot of things. But what I try not to do is make money that much of a focal point. Because again, when I first started, we just winged it, and we just made it happen. And a lot of times you may not even need money because a lot of currency comes from relationships.
What, say, hold the phone here. So if someone, you just struck a chord, because somebody watching might say, I don't have the money, and that's my excuse.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that's not a good excuse.
That's not a good excuse because, again, you have relationships. You have, family. You have people that you've dealt with. If you go into college and you're a fraternity, you have your fraternity brothers and sisters and the like. So utilize what you have. A lot of times when I first started some of these businesses and some of these things, I had to barter. Okay, well, I'll give you this if you give me this, or I'll do a deal where I'm not making any money up front. And a lot of times you have to make that choice, but you have to push it to make sure you go forward.
So that explains why some of the most successful people I've interviewed, like long format, they are the most humble, because I feel like it is very humbling, because you pretty much have to, maneuver and really almost like say, I don't want to say show that you're desperate almost, but that desperation turns into the perspiration, desperation, what's that saying? Yeah. Turns into inspiration for others eventually. Right. But for you, you're a veteran. I keep going back to that because you're a hero. So we appreciate you so much. I hope you feel that. And then you turn this company into $1 billion company, right? And then now moving forward, you want to help veterans. Can you tell me about that? You're now on a mission to help veterans.
Yes, I'm definitely on a mission to help veterans. I go to I live in New York. Of course, we're in New York, everyone.
Yeah, New York City, 42nd Street.
So I go to the parade every year. I go to the veterans, the mayor's veterans breakfast every year.
Okay.
I do everything I can to give back. I'm on the list to start going over to the different bases and speaking to them about entrepreneurship.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm just waiting for that to all plan out.
Wow,
and,
I'll go with you.
I'm really, really eager to do that.
I would love
really
it.
To do that. I'd really love to go overseas, because it's a problem in the military. It's not necessarily the problem in the military. It's the problem when you get out.
Yeah.
Because there's no education on what to do.
The resources are not there. And
so what I try to do is to tell the kids, young kids that I speak to, listen, you want to join a gang? This is a better gang. At least you won't get killed. Right? You got room and board. You meet new people. You learn life. Because again, as a young inner youth, inner city youth, you think the world is just small. The world is huge.
It's big. It's really big.
Right? You get to go overseas. You get to live life. You get to and live an honest life. Free room and board. You don't have to worry about looking over your shoulder. And I think I'm trying to push that narrative every day.
I could talk to you forever. But, you remind me of a mom that I was talking to, and she paid for cable, and it was hundreds of dollars because she needed internet access. And she would tell me, I can't afford food some months. And I'd say, this was in a public housing development. And I'd say, why are you paying for cable? Because she would tell me, we were talking about her money, just looking at her resources. I was trying to help her. And she said, it keeps my son off the streets. He's on the computer, and I know he's safe in the house. And I remember thinking, that is a real, it really was a punch in the stomach when I heard that. But I got it immediately. I was like, I see, that's valuable. The $200 a month to keep the kid off the streets. And then he's on the computer all day. Is that healthy? Most of us don't think so, but it's healthier than what he's exposed to if he walks out that door. And those are the choices that a lot of families have right now. So if we can help them create generational wealth, we're all learning it together. And you did it first. So now we're just going to follow in your footsteps. What is the bit of hope? I always want to end with a bit of hope on creating generational wealth. What would you say is a little bit of hope? I mean, the whole podcast was hope, but what's your message?
Well, I mean, listen, hope is actually happening as we speak. Hope is here now. And today it's getting more popular to be knowledgeable about fractional ownership of stocks and things like that. And again, it could be dicey even having this conversation with the charter schools. And that's just another alternative to schools. So either way, if you have the money, you don't have the money, you can actually have that option. And I think that with that happening, this actual real school system is starting to say, hey, listen, why don't we teach economics, or why don't we teach financial literacy early, so that way we don't have a whole bunch of people.
And it's never too early.
It's never
I
too
remember
early.
we interviewed Jamie Dimon. He's like out of the egg, like
Right,
5 years
right,
old, 6 years
right,
old. Start
right.
start teaching,
Right.
And we have city, state, and federal legislators working on it. But before, how long is that going to take? We
'Cause
don't
if you think
know.
about this,
So you got to take
the biggest thing about life is time. It's going to keep going, regardless. So if you started when the kid came out the womb, you put a little bit of it away, and you just left it there. By the time you turn around, there's no problem. They have the money to go to college.
And it's never too late.
Right.
Because women, we're doing a whole series on women who are of a certain age who have restarted their career, and they can just, it's just doing it today. To find all of your stuff, I always like to say this, Dr. Martin, you're going to, what is it? Is itjalexandermartin.com? You have your own website, and FUBU.com, of course, to order any of that. And then Amazon has all 4 of your books. I'm sorry, I have only seen 2 of them, so I got to check out the other 2. It's all on Amazon.com. Will you come back?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, good.
I'm going to be a fixture here.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And then just so you know, he's been on TV, Pix 11 News. You've been on we're doing a story on you. But if you want to watch this, remember, it's always every Friday. We have a fresh podcast that is just like this. We're talking to, billionaires. Like it's been like billionaires now, 2 in a row. Now we're going to keep the momentum going. It's always money makers, change makers that are making, change happen in their communities too. So we're really making it happen. Thank you. See you next time. Thank you.